A new research by Chatham House says Africa's debt distress may likely worsen in 2023. Joining me to review borrowings on the continent this year is Mr. Ayodeji Onigbogi, Managing Director, Escrow Capital, Escrow Wealth Investments. It's good to have you on the program.
Well, it's my pleasure being here.
Okay, Mr. Ayodeji, we've talked about Africa's debt burden. We've seen what's happening on the continent, especially in 2022, post-COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine crisis, which has exacerbated things. How would you say major economies in Africa fared this year in terms of debt management versus their revenue generation?
The major economies in Africa that are leading: Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, Morocco, and Algeria. They're the first five. If you see what they did, the budget, what their loan portfolio is, and debt servicing, the five major countries, they've been able to manage their debt portfolio perfectly. But the issue is other smaller nations might not be able to manage their debt portfolio because their source of revenue is limited, and foreign direct investment in most of these countries have been withdrawn. So psychologically, funds are no longer in all these environments. But most of the first five major countries in Africa, they have been able to manage their debt portfolio perfectly. For Egypt and Morocco, they are the two leading countries whereby investment, they get more foreign direct investment because they have an economy that is stable, they have a government that is responsive and is attracting foreign direct investment.
If we talk of foreign direct investments, Nigeria's foreign direct investments have been on the decline for some time now. And we have a debt stock of about 44 trillion naira. And the government is looking to securitize the Ways and Means loans, which is about 23 trillion naira. That's adding to the debt burden. Do you think we've been able to manage our debts? And do you think we have enough to sustain that debt?
Well, Nigeria as a country, we have enough, but it's management that's the key issue. If you check out the countries like Egypt and Morocco that are stable, that are attracting investors, they have stable economy. Nigeria is a place whereby if you bring your $2,000 to invest in Nigeria in 2021, by 2020, you don't know what the policy will look like. And anybody that wants to attract foreign direct investment, you must have a stable economy. Your regulations and policies must be stable. People must have the confidence. Just like as we knew, some 4 or 5 years ago, we bought Nigerian to dollar was probably 200, 250. Now it's almost 750. So that means if someone has brought its funds from a few years ago, if he has not repatriated, he might even have difficulty. We even had instances earlier this year where airlines were not able to repatriate their funds because they brought in people, they paid in naira, they were not able to move their funds in dollars because of the exchange risk. So that's a major problem for countries that is not stable, or countries that are not stable. Foreign exchange risk will be a major problem.
Okay, speaking of foreign exchange risk being a major problem, Nigeria, experts have said, we had Mr. Bisbak Rouhani saying that Nigeria is going to borrow more because of the way the economy is going. And if we're looking at the rising inflation and interest rate hikes by most major developed economies, which is increasing the cost of borrowing, making it more difficult to sustain, are we likely to see a liquidity crisis in most of these countries? Nigeria, we've seen something happening in Ghana. What of Egypt and Kenya and the rest of the economies that are depending on these debts, these loans from foreign countries?
Yeah, you mentioned something that's very important. See, a nation must have a vision. And the vision is not a 5-year plan. It's not a 10-year plan. It should be something that is tenured. Nigeria as a country, we have vision. We claim to have vision, but we don't follow through our vision. So psychologically, another 2-3 years, people should ready, there will be liquidity crunch in Nigeria. And the reason is because government will have less money to put into the system because the funds we have in the system will be limited, because we will have more reasons to use our fund that is coming to pay the external debt. And external debt is a must. Even if you don't eat, you need to pay your external debt. If not, the credit rating of the country will be at risk. So we need to fund that, and we are funding that. There will be less cash in the economy. When there's less cash when the economy is not illiquid, that's when there's less cash in the economy, everybody will suffer the front. I will tell you, this December is one of the poorest December I've seen since I've been born over 50 years ago. It's the poorest, because if you notice in Nigeria, the general trend, what we are used to is that you see what we call ampers flying around. I never saw one.
Wow.
I never saw one. But you know what I mean?
Serious.
And that shows that there is a lot of liquidity crisis in the country, 2022. Next year is a political year. Between now and February, March, there will be a winner, and then some people will have to go to court. Before you know it, the year can still be huge, because anybody that wants to bring in funds, you need to be sure that the economy is stable for them to be able to, for it to be attractive enough for foreign investors.
So look at Ghana, what's happening there. Can you speak to what is happening? Do you think right now they're looking to January to get an approval, well, to get the funding for $3 billion? Do you think at the moment that Ghana is on the right track, that they're doing the right thing with the IMF funds?
Yeah, what happened in Ghana is naturally what will happen. People that brought in funds, because the economy was seen not to be, they are no longer confident with the economy. They moved the funds, and then there was problem. So that's what happens in Ghana. So what they are trying to do, it will be in the short run. Okay. There will be funds in the economy for what they want to do. But they need to consider long-term projections. Okay. So that people who don't enjoy now, and probably the people that are coming in the next 10 years suffers it.
Okay. So you're saying the outlook for Africa, what's the debt outlook for Africa? Just a quick one, sir.
Well, if you look at what the London business has said, what Africa owes about 693 billion. Africa needs to reduce what they owe to the outside world. Because what we even owe only China, Chinese bank, what African countries owe Chinese bank is 696 billion. So if you owe what we owe Chinese bank 696 billion, that shows we are not careful. African future might be moribund or might be mortgaged by what we're doing.
Thank you.
We had instances whereby people are cracking joke that we signed contract for our rail and it was not well read, and because most of the Chinese contract they have undertones. Okay. And we saw it happen somewhere in Angola and Zambia.
So, Mr. Ayodeji Onibogi, thank you so much, Managing Partner, Escrow Wealth Investment, for sharing your perspective, and probably there'll be more time for elaborations. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Incorporated.
Nice one.